Hey, it's your friendly neighborhood potato witch. Welcome to the show. This video is part 2 of my recap of the story of Chrono Cross as requested by Cass McPhee on Patreon. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, I highly recommend doing so before launching into this video. If you're all caught up with the story, then let's press on. He tells Serge, still trapped in Lynx's body, to follow him to the Sea of Eden before teleporting the two of them away. Serge awakens in a distorted place that looks a lot like a painting. He encounters someone else there, a person by the name of Sprig, who first mistook Serge for a wandering spirit, because physical entities don't exactly end up there often. Sprig talks about chaos and life's lack of meaning, and generally sounds like a first-year philosophy student who just left a class on nihilism, and then goes to sleep, because that's what you do when life is meaningless and nothing matters. Serge tries to leave though, and Sprig decides, nah, sleep is for the weak, I'ma come with this Catman weirdo who just showed up in my extra-dimensional house, because why not? She figures Serge may be her only way out of the temporal vortex she's currently in, and she's the only one who can unlock the nearby tower that Serge needs to traverse anyway. The two make their way up to the tower, where Harl waits for Lynx. Serge says he's not Lynx, but Harl informs him that he is now. Certainly everyone else will believe him to be Lynx and treat him accordingly, so in a sense, doesn't that make him Lynx after all? Cool, good questions about the subjectivity of reality. This doesn't hurt my brain even a little bit. Harl informs him that he can probably rewrite the memory and forget being Serge if he had the dragon tear, and maybe that's for the best since Serge died 10 years ago after all. Who can say for sure that the memories are accurate and that anyone is who they really think they are anyway? An image of Serge appears, claims to be reality, and then walks away. Sprig comments to Serge in Lynx's body that he has to choose to open the doorway to reality. If he picks the wrong door, he'll never make it back to the real world. I mean, there are two real worlds at this point, so... Mimicking the pattern of the illusory Serge on another floor, the duo finds themselves in what look like an M.C. Escher painting, and Harl decides now that she's going to come along whether anybody wants her to or not. Everybody probably has a reality-melting headache by the time they finish getting through the strange architecture of the tower, but eventually they reach a huge hole in the floor, jump through it, and find themselves in... the Hydra Marshes of Serge's homeworld. Ooh, a familiar place that doesn't distort my understanding of 3D space. I love it! Harl advises Serge to go back to where angels lose their way, which means Opasa Beach. Only when they arrive, the dimensional tear that allowed Serge to previously travel between timelines won't open. Harl says this is because the missing piece of the world has been found, everything has been set to rights, and there's no need for any connection between two timelines anymore. Anyway, Sprig suggests explaining everything to Serge's mother, so it's back to Arnie Village. Serge's mother, Marge, is understandably confused when her son confesses that he's actually Serge in a Catman body, but thinks that if all of this is true, then the story really began not 10 years ago, but 14, on the night of a big storm. Serge's father, Wazuki, and Lena's father, Miguel, took a boat into the ocean despite the dangers of a storm due to an emergency. The boat capsized, the two were knocked out, and when they woke up they were in the Dead Sea, which was called the Sea of Eden at the time. Miguel never returned, and Wazuki was deeply changed by the incident. Marge's story is interrupted by the arrival of Radius, the hermit from the other world, who is surprised to see Lynx alive. Radius attacks, but can't hold out against Serge, or Lynx's strength. He accepts that Lynx isn't Lynx, and that other timelines exist, impressively easily. He's intrigued to know that Viper may still be alive in this other world, as the Viper from this world disappeared 3 years ago. He offers to accompany Serge in order to discover more, starting in Termina, because options for places to gather info are pretty limited around here. People aren't exactly pleased to see Lynx in Termina, ordering him out. Much of the town seems deserted, shut down and shuttered up. One of the guards posted in the town says that the military is at the docks, and nobody can go there without permission from Commander Norris, not even Sir Lynx. Norris is at Viper Manor, which is... ruined. Completely destroyed. Radius mourns for what was lost, especially Viper and the other Dragoons. He says he tried to investigate, but all he could discover was that a man named Lynx approached the general shortly before he disappeared. In the other world, Viper didn't disappear, so Lynx's approach must have been another pivotal event that ties the two timelines together. Norris is in the basement of the manor, and he greets Serge as Lynx, telling him that the frozen flame hasn't been found in the ruins of the manor. He seems to notice that Lynx isn't quite himself, which Radius confirms. Norris certainly knows Radius by reputation, and trusts his word when Radius explains that Lynx's body is inhabited by somebody else's soul. Norris is happy to give up information when Radius requested of him, and states that Lynx first approached the military in Por about tracking down the mythical frozen flame, which he believed to lay somewhere in the El Nido archipelago. Rumor led Norris to Viper Manor, where he discovered that Viper was also searching for the artifact. Norris was eventually recalled, but not before hearing about Viper's disappearance and the destruction of the manor. Rumors began to surface that Viper and his men were headed east towards the Dead Sea, but try as he might, Norris could find no way to go past the Dead Sea's coral perimeter. Radius puts the clues together and remembers that it was 3 years ago, at the time of Viper's disappearance, that the Sea of Eden was renamed as the Dead Sea, and thinks that investigating there could yield more information about what the true Lynx's true plans are. He theorizes that the demi-humans in Marbul probably know more about it than humans do, and what a coincidence that Serge is currently wearing the body of a demi-human. Using Norris's military boat, the party heads to Marbul, the island of demi-humans. It wasn't always their home, but after Por colonized their old home, they were all sort of forced to find a new one and so settled on this new island. Humans followed them and stripped the island of its resources, and now most of the demi-humans work as low-paid laborers on a cruise ship, and can this game get any more blatant with its colonialism equals bad message? Anyway, rumors say that the Dead Sea is guarded by a fearsome dragon god, and that there may be a way in called Death's Door, but nobody really knows where it is. The sage on the cruise ship might, though. That night, the party hears voices outside the hut they're staying in. They investigate and see a mermaid standing on a bridge, who then jumps into the water and swims away. A mystery. Only not so much a mystery, because the next morning that mermaid is in the water beside the hut, and she begs to go with the group to the cruise ship, the Zelbes, although she doesn't reveal her true reasons for asking. The Zelbes is quite a sail away, but when the party arrives, it sure does look familiar, as does the ship's captain. It's Fargo. In this world, he operates a cruise ship rather than a pirate ship. Kind of a tyrannical cruise ship, since he preaches that power is justice and lets his employees be abused if they're not strong enough to defend themselves. Fargo is scolded by the mermaid, Irene's, for living too much in his memories. Turns out that Fargo and Irene's sister Zelbes were a thing in the past, but Zelbes died. Fargo thought that their child Marcy had perished along with Zelbes, but Marcy is, in fact, alive and might be the key to reuniting humans with demi-humans. Fargo isn't moved by Irene's words, so Irene's changed her tactics and bluntly requests that Fargo free the sage that he has in his employ. And employ might as well be in quotation marks. Marbul is pretty diminished without the power and knowledge that the sage holds. Fargo stubbornly refuses, saying that he's fine with how things are now. In the other world, this guy poisoned people and locked them in the brig. I guess assholishness transcends dimensions. When Norris questions Fargo, Fargo denies that the sage is even on board. I guess he didn't notice anyone eavesdropping. But he might be willing to relent if he's entertained. He makes the group a deal. Win big at the casino, i.e. play roulette against him, and he'll let them have access to the sage. Lose, and he'll have to hand over Norris's ship. Sigh. Playing against the casino boss means the game is rigged though, and Fargo wins. Now that the party has lost their boat and swimming back to shore really isn't an option, they may as well take the time to see a magic show that's being offered as part of the cruise ship's entertainment. The magician, Snef, makes a woman float, light as a feather, stiff as a board style, which would probably be more impressive in a world where magic didn't already openly exist, but hey, entertainment is entertainment. Cue the usual audience heckler, whom Snef turns into a cat and back. Dude doesn't seem all that impressed, but Norris gets the idea that maybe if everyone in the party was a cat, they could sneak around the ship with greater ease and get what they need to escape and return to Marbul. The party gets Snef to turn them all into cats as part of a stage performance, and then run off before Snef can turn them back. It's time to do some sneaking. They discover that Fargo's roulette game is controlled from under the casino by a magnet, meaning that Fargo can force wins or losses whenever it suits his needs. Okay then, time to steal the handle that controls the magnet machine, get changed back into not cats, and challenge Fargo to another match. He seems unhappy when he loses. He recognizes that his scam has ended, and credit to him, at least stays true to his word and gives the boat back, and also grants access to the part of the ship where the sage is being held. The sage doesn't take too kindly to humans asking him about the Dead Sea. Given that humans have done some rotten things to his people, he has no reason to trust them. Humans take without remorse, and as he sees the party is no different, he attacks in order to defend what few freedoms he has left. He does seem somewhat impressed when the battle ends, though, and sensing that everyone is serious about entering the Dead Sea for reasons that aren't merely selfish and demanding. He cautions, but advises the group to seek out a place near the Dead Sea where the tides are different, and then to use an item called the Fiddler Crab in that area. Nature will take over from there. The party finds the place near the Dead Sea that the sage described, uses the fiddler crab somehow, and the coral breaks to reveal an entrance, Death's Door. Inside a cave, they find the evil sword Masamune, which blocks anyone from passing. To counter it, they need the Einlanzer, an ancient Dragonian holy sword that Radius knows to be at the grave of Garai, the last person to rightfully wield the blade. Garai's grave is inside a cavern on the Isle of the Damned, a demonic resting ground. Oh, good. The Isle of the Damned is about as delightful as it sounds, a dark place full of bones and black waters and demons out for blood. Garai's grave is deep within the island, overlooking a surprisingly cheerful field of flowers. Surge as Lynx examines the grave and finds the names of everyone in the party, with himself called Lynx, but I'm going to keep calling him Surge because it's Surge in there, goddammit, engraved upon it. Radius runs up to the grave and sobbingly apologizes, recalling the time when he and Garai found the Masamune originally, and overcome with the negativity within the sword, Radius struck Garai down, killing his friend and fellow dragoon before regaining his senses. It's Radius's fault that Garai is in the grave to begin with. From beyond the grave, Garai's spirit suggests that if Radius feels bad for what he did, then he could make amends by dying right here and now. His spirit rises, and Radius entreats him to give over the Einlanzer, but Garai pulls a, "you can have it when you pry it from my cold, dead hand," which, I guess was why everyone came here to begin with, so... Anyway, Garai's spirit attacks, seeking vengeance against the one who killed him, and by extension those who ally with Radius. Upon his defeat, Surge receives the Einlanzer. Radius sorrowfully begs Garai to wait just a little longer to have his final revenge, just until he's done helping save the world. Then he'll be back to atone for his crimes. Returning to Death's Door, the Einlanzer's power overcomes that of the Masamune and allows the party to pass. Inside the Dead Sea is a strange place filled with ruined structures, broken sections of road and buildings. Also places where the water is solid, frozen in time, and so is traversable by merely walking. Very strange place indeed. Inside one of the ruined buildings, there's a series of screens and computer panels, technology very much at odds with the other parts of the world visited thus far. Norris has some degree of electrical engineering and gets the systems up and running again. The screens display information about a parasitic life form known as Lavos, which showed up over 65 million years ago. But hang on, this is dated 2300 AD, and overlooking the fact that AD stands for Anno Domini and means the year of the Lord and is basically a Christian calendar thing thrown into a game that doesn't have Christianity in it, this still means that the report is from the future. At the center of the Dead Sea lies the Tower of Geddon, which is similarly frozen in time as the rest of the area. Inside the tower, things look weirdly like the Shinra building from Final Fantasy VII, only with more robots walking around. And ghosts, can't forget the ghosts. Surge keeps seeing what looks like a child running off in the distance, who eventually leads them to a room filled with ghosts, pale echoes of the people who were here before. Nobody else seems to see them, though, nor do they react to the large glowy swirly portal up ahead. At least not until Surge takes them right through it. The portal takes them to another place, one that doesn't seem connected in any way to where they just were. It's as though once again, time and space and the idea of reality are malleable here in ways that just don't apply elsewhere. The ghosts are still here, though. The party comes across a monument with a large bell with a few ghosts around it. One of them says that they worked hard to ensure everyone's safety, but it was all for nothing because Surge. Thanks to Surge, their hope of healing the world has failed, or rather will fail at some point in the future. The world will be destroyed because of Surge. The ghost figures vanish and somebody new arrives, advising Surge to ignore the others as they're just echoes of those long gone. This man, whose name is Miguel, formally welcomes everyone to the Tower of Geddon, Time Crash Ground Zero. He not only recognizes and remembers Surge, but is, in fact, the same Miguel who was lost at sea with Wazuki 14 years ago, Lena's father. When he and Wazuki found themselves in the Dead Sea, then called the Sea of Eden, it looked different, less destroyed. A mysterious voice commanded them to bring the wounded child, which Wazuki interpreted to be Surge. He refused to give up his son without a fight, and so moved deeper into the building, leaving Miguel behind. Miguel tells Surge that the place changed from mysterious to outright ruin 10 years ago, when the Sea of Eden officially transformed into the Dead Sea. Time ceased passing. Living things didn't age, they didn't die, everything remained static. It's beautiful, it's quiet, it's lonely, and it's a future that was eliminated, something that will not now ever be. He recaps some multiverse theory, that each action taken or not taken divides the timeline and creates new realities from the choices people never took, failures and successes that influence a future that other timelines may never know about. Something in the past changed, and thus the future that exists in the Dead Sea will never exist anywhere else. Possibilities held outside time. Trippy enough for you? Miguel asks Serge if he wants to become one with this world, part of eternity, and never have to worry about anything again. No more struggles, no more pain, no more anything other than life suspended in a moment. Serge refuses. Miguel understands that Serge seeks to restore the dimensional distortion that allowed him to jump between timelines, and says that defeating him and liberating this world will restore that distortion. Which sounds an awful lot like bringing back the distortion will bring back the possibility of a desolate future into play, and that doesn't exactly sound like a good thing. A battle ensues, with Serge having to bring an end to his friend's father, his father's friend, a man trapped outside of time for 14 years. Miguel congratulates Serge on growing so strong. Maybe Serge and his allies can indeed provide a better hope, a better future for humanity if they can defeat fate. He goes on to describe the Dead Sea as the true form of the planet's future. Goody, it sounds like the future is some sort of boss battle. This isn't even my final form! Anyway, he describes how in 1999, when the alien parasite known as Lavos awoke, the world was on the brink of destruction. Lavos fell from space and built itself a cozy nest inside the planet, feeding on its energy until it could awaken and show its true terrifying form. The world would have been destroyed had it not been for the efforts of a teenage boy and his friends. They saw the destruction that would happen in the future, in the year 2300, and even if it wouldn't have been remotely in their lifetimes, they couldn't turn aside and ignore the threat. They jumped about through many eras of history, eventually defeating Lavos and saving the world. In other words, spoilers for Chrono Trigger if you haven't played it yet. Their mission to save the world definitely did save it, but it also changed the course of history. The world was on track to be destroyed by Lavos as it had been for millions of years, but since that had been averted, a new future was born from those actions, with the old future ceasing to exist. The ghosts appear once again, explaining that the dead future, the one that had been averted with Lavos' defeat, is about to come back into play, undoing all of the work that they did to save the world when they were alive. Once more, the possibility of Lavos rising and consuming the world is very real, and Serge seems to be the axis on which all of this pivots. If Serge gives up, if he does nothing, if he stays in the Dead Sea and ceases to be an influence, then the terrible future will not come to pass. Probably. The area begins to rumble and shake. It looks like fate has made its own decision and started to carry it out now. The frozen flame, once again getting a mention, needs a chosen one to awaken it, but fate, or rather, fate, in all caps, doesn't want that happening right now. It would rather destroy the frozen flame and everything around it rather than let someone else have it. Miguel tells the others to leave, now before they lose their chance. He bids them farewell, states openly that Serge is the frozen flame's chosen one, just in case nobody's figured it out yet, and then the party retreats. It looks unlikely that they'll make it, but suddenly a freaking dragon swoops down, tells them to grab on, and flies them to safety. That escalated quickly. Then, there's really no good way to explain this, so I'll just say that the Dead Sea sort of explodes. Yeah, so that just happened. The dragon that rescued Serge and friends has dropped them safely off on a rocky shore. It wants to see how all this plays out, what sort of future Serge will bring to the world. It warns about preparing for sorrow, and then takes to the skies, leaving the party standing before the ocean. Its words travel to Serge across the distance, telling him that if he truly wishes to defy the goddess of fate, he should speak with the ancient dragon gods who rest across the El Nido archipelago. The true Sea of Eden, rather than the Dead Sea, will be revealed when the powers of the dragon gods are united. Serge has himself a mighty fetch quest. But now, the dimensional distortion should have reopened, and upon checking Opasa Beach, this is indeed so. Serge jumps from his homeworld to the other world, where he sees a young boy being chased by some shadow cats, similar to the ones Lynx used for his illusions. The party dispels the shadow cats and saves the boy, who thanks them by warning them to be careful. There are a lot of monsters running around now, thanks to someone named Serge leading a rebellion. God damn it, Lynx in Serge's body. The group heads for Termina, where poor soldiers appear to be in charge here now as much as they were in Serge's original world. In the back room of a bar, Karsh and Zoa are hanging out. They tell Surge about how, after their last battle, they too went inside Fort Dragonia and saw the body of General Viper on the floor, along with Surge, possessed by Lynx of course, vanishing with Kid's body. As it turns out though, Viper didn't actually die after getting stabbed by Lynx. Karsh, Zoa, and Marcy took Viper to Radius's old hut so he could recover in safety. In the meantime, Poor has taken over Termina, which even Norris isn't happy about despite him actually being part of the Poor military. Zoa and Karsh have pieced together that the source of all this chaos is actually Lynx, not Surge. First things first though, Lady Riddell needs rescuing from Viper Manor, which is also under the control of the Poor military. Karsh hands over some shards of something that Marcy collected from Fort Dragonia, the Tear of Hate. On the way out of Termina, the party encounters Norris. Not the Norris that's allied himself with Surge. No, the Norris from this world who is still allied with Lynx. Before things get too awkward, he's called away, but invites Surge, whom he thinks is Lynx, to pay him a visit in the manor later. With Lynx being an ally of Poor, the guards allow the party access to Viper Manor with no trouble. Inside, Riddell is being questioned as to her father's location, as well as the location of the Frozen Flame. She says she doesn't know, and wouldn't tell them even if she did. Ha! Take that, Poor! Paying a visit to Norris, he comments that when they saw each other in Termina, he thought something was kind of off with Lynx. Much as with the Norris from Surge's homeworld, this Norris gets the explanation that the man before him might look like Lynx, but is really somebody else. And much like the other Norris, he takes this news surprisingly well. He hands over the prison key so that Surge can rescue Riddell, and asks everyone to meet up with him once that's done. In a cell, Riddell is being threatened by Orcha, the cook, who has been turned evil by the Poor military. Surge and friends rush in to stop her from being hurt, only to find themselves on the receiving end of Orcha's wrath. Defeating him brings him back to his senses, along with having the wonderful effect of making the Poor guards think that Sir Lynx has gone mad and turned on them. They run and make it pretty easy to rescue Riddell from that point. In the entry hall, Norris takes over making sure that Riddell is safe. He asks Surge to distract the other guards while they make their escape, which results in having to fight a lab-made fighter named Grobik, who is brought in to add to the fighting strength of the Poor military. Seeing one of their strongest defeated demoralizes many of the guards, but one of them takes the chance to send a giant freaking robot after the party. A robot that just won't quit, annoyingly, and begins chasing them through the manor, hurting them and preventing their escape. They lay the smackdown on the robot once again, but once again it rises and pursues them, jumping to a swinging chandelier to follow them. Then Grobik arrives and cuts down the chandelier, causing the robot to go crashing down to the floors below. Before the whole process can start again, the party smashes through a stained glass window and falls into the dragon stables. Hey, wouldn't it be hilarious if they released all the dragons and sent them stampeding over the soldiers outside? Why yes. Yes it would. Grobik, who only takes orders from those stronger than him, finds it interesting that Surge and his team are resisting the Poor military so successfully, and decides, sure, he may as well take orders from Surge from now on since he's so strong. Surge gathers the weirdest allies sometimes. Now that the team has escaped from Viper Manor, they pay a visit to the true lord of the manor, General Viper, in his convalescent retreat on Hermit's Hideaway. That night, an explosion sounds from outside. It's Kid, come to seek her vengeance on Lynx. Only she doesn't know that it's really Surge wearing Lynx's body, and that the Surge who's with her is actually Lynx wearing a Surge suit, so to speak. Funny how she doesn't get that Surge is acting really weird when people notice that Lynx is different just by talking at him for 30 seconds. There seems no escape, when suddenly Fargo swoops down on Polly the giant parrot thing and whisks everyone away to the safety of his pirate ship. Viper tells Surge that Lynx is headed for the Sea of Eden, and that he must be stopped from obtaining the Frozen Flame at all costs. Once again, it's off to the Dead Sea, or the Sea of Eden, or whatever it wants to be called at any point in time and space. Sea of Sea? Dead Eden? Dead Eden is the name of my new Darkwave band. What was known as Death's Door in the other world is known here as the Pearly Gates, which are unfortunately sealed away by the power of ancient dragons. Harl is full of information and eager to share it, and she tells Surge that to break the seal, he needs to bring together the relics from 6 dragons, just as the dragon who rescued everyone from the Dead Sea explained. The relics are scattered across both worlds, and they need to be brought to the Dead Sea, not the Sea of Eden, and unsealing the gate there will unlock the Sea of Eden here, and yes, that thing you're feeling right now is a headache from trying to understand how things work in this story. Oh, and one more thing. Lynx in his guise as Surge is already there. Unsealing the gate will only work to allow Surge, the physical form of Surge, beyond. Surge can't do it when he's trapped inside Lynx's skin. To fix that, Surge needs to find the Dragon Tier. So many fetch quests. First, the Dragon Relics. None of the dragons are particularly eager to give up the relics, not without Surge proving himself to them first. Or sometimes just being cranky and needing a smackdown. There's the Black Dragon, the Earth Dragon, the Water Dragon, the Fire Dragon, who seems unintimidating at first but then gets bigger, the Green Dragon, and finally the Sky Dragon. All of the dragons give Surge their protection by handing over their relics, and the Sky Dragon, more than any other, seems quite impressed with Surge having accomplished what he has. Upon receiving the Sky Dragon's final blessing, the Pearly Gates should be open to Surge. But he still needs to get his own form back, and for that, he still needs the Dragon Tear. In Goldove, the Oracle Durea recognizes that the Tear of Hate, which Marcy handed over to Surge what feels like a lifetime ago now, is actually a piece of the Dragon Tear. She gifts to Surge the Dragon Emblem, one of the symbols of the Dragon Shamans that were passed down through the generations. If somebody has one, it makes sense for them to also have the other. Durea recommends paying a visit to the shamans in the other world, that is to say Surge's original world, and requesting their aid, as they should recognize Surge's connection to them with both artifacts in hand. A quick dimension jump and some sailing later, and Surge is talking to the Oracle Stina, who agrees to lend Surge the Dragon Tear. The best place for Surge to start getting his body back is to return to the place where he lost it, Fort Dragonia. Inside a chamber is Surge, or rather Surge's body, still possessed by Lynx. He comments that it's too soon for Surge to get his body back, and then puts up a fight, only to be defeated. He basically pulls a "K, gotta go, bye" maneuver and vanishes, and damn it, that's not fair! The party presses on, and finds themselves in front of the door that always appears in Surge's visions. No visions happen this time, though. The doors open unremarkably. Surge must go on alone, though, unaided by his companions. Inside, Surge places the Dragon Tear on a pedestal in the center of the room. The mural on the walls begins to tell the story of humanity's emergence in the world. All life on this planet was born in the sea. The life forms softly slumbered within the womb of our mother sea, until eventually they developed free will and were able to swim about the ocean freely. Then there came those that, not satisfied with life in the water, looked up from the ocean floor toward the blue skies and dreamt of the feel of the land. Eons passed before their preposterous dream became a reality, and they rose up from the seas onto the earth. The land became full of all kinds of creatures. Among those, the dragon lizards and the more evolved reptites thought they would reign over the earth forever, and for a long while, it seemed that they would. However, the unforeseen coming of the mighty one from the heavens suddenly smashed their kingdom to pieces. That one was known as Lavos, the Great Crimson Flame. Wielding absolute power, Lavos buried the dinosaurs, the kings of the land, in the space of a night. However, the timid apes, who had lived hidden in the forests, came into contact with the crimson flame that fell from the sky and evolved into humans. Or perhaps it was not evolution, but transformation. In this way, humans increased in number and filled the earth. The fearsome progeny of Lavos, who, like their progenitor, began to devour our mother planet. So wait, hang on a sec. Did early humans just see this gigantic space thing that wiped out the previous planetary rulers and go, dude, we gotta get on this guy's good side or we're all fucked? And ever since, all humanity is known as the desperate struggle to rise at the cost of someone else's downfall, because that was literally part of the event that turned us into what we are? I feel like this explains so much, and not just about this game. Anyway, the Dragon Tear uses its power to wrap Surge in a bubble of liquid, and then we get something that is decidedly symbolic, with a baby Surge rapidly growing up and then bursting from his magical womb as the young man he used to be, albeit rather more naked than usual. The Dragon's Tear, however, has shattered. Oracle Stina says that this isn't a surprise, but that Surge should remember that he also holds the fate of the Dragon's Tear from the other world, the shards from the Tear of Hate. Love and hate are two sides of the same coin, she explains, and that uniting the two might bring about the legendary Chrono Cross. The Dragon Tear that just shattered is now the Tear of Love, and Surge should take them to Divine Dragon Falls, which will hopefully give life to the powers of the Chrono Cross. File that info away for later. And here's where we're gonna leave off for here. One more video to go with the recap of Chrono Cross' story, and believe me, if what happened in this episode gave you a headache, that is nothing compared to what will be coming. As always, I want to thank everyone for watching, encourage you all to subscribe if you're not already, and maybe give the video a like if you thought there was any entertainment value hidden deeply in it somewhere. Take care, and I'll see you all soon with part 3.